Uh, so let's talk about the second movie that just came out the first week or two of November, about a movie about Christmas in November. And I know November's only a month away, but man, this and Bad Moms Christmas really hit the nail on the head of this is going to be a movie that's going to be out of theaters by Christmas. It's not gonna. I doubt that it will stay there until Christmas time, but we get our second Christmas movie in November, Daddy's Home 2, which I'd argue that Bad Moms Christmas is just as bad as Daddy's Home 2, but Daddy's Home 2, I really, even as a bad movie, I didn't laugh literally almost at all. I thought that this was really, really bad. And especially in the sense of I didn't like the first one. The first Daddy's Home I thought was pretty lame and pretty boring, and generic as crap. It felt really big. I mean, if you like Will Ferrell and Mark Wahlberg's comedy duo thing going on, you might like it. But for me, the jokes were just so bad and so bad, so cliched and so bad that the first one just I really just thought it was so generic and so boring and lame. And then we get uh, this movie, the sequel, which is even more lame than the first Daddy's Home, because Daddy's Home 2, like Bad Moms 2 Christmas, this one really is so similar to Bad Moms Christmas. It's so weird that these have so many similarities in the fact that the adults, or the parents of the adults, come into this sequel, like in Bad Moms Christmas. And then the family has a get together and they hijinks ensue because of the parents being there and because of just arguments with Will Ferrell and Mark Wahlberg. And similar to Bad Moms, where it happens that way, where these characters are introduced, like these new characters are introduced, and they're the parents of the parents. And it's very similar, except I would argue that Bad Moms Christmas, even though it wasn't good, it at least made me laugh more than this. I laughed maybe, I didn't like laugh out loud. I kind of chuckled a couple times in this movie, but it was very quick, very brief, to a point where I kind of forgot that I even laughed throughout this. I kind of just thought that right now, like that I maybe chuckled a couple times, but it took me a minute to think about it, and that really shows that this movie was, to me, very bad and very boring. It does not warrant existing. But I didn't care for the first one either, so I didn't go into this expecting to like it. So that might be another reason why. Like, it has some okay jokes in it, but most of them are cliched. And I gotta admit, though, having Mel Gibson and John Lithgow in this is a cool addition, honestly. But the only thing they do is Mel Gibson is just kind of like a crazy psychopath. The way he laughs and sabotages Will Ferrell and Mark Wahlberg's kind of relationship. That he sabotages it just to get a laugh out of them. And then John Lithgow is Will Ferrell's dad, and he's just this kind of overbearing, nerdy dad. And it's weird because we get a scene in this movie where it kind of builds up. Weirdly enough, it has a little bit of a story thread in this. It builds up to where Will Ferrell's dad is. You don't know where the wife is. Like his dad won't tell him what happened to his wife. And whenever you figure out what happened, it's like during this improv show where John Lithgow is up on stage, and John Lithgow has this weird moment in this movie where this movie is a comedy, but there is this moment where he starts sobbing dramatically. It honestly, like, it was really good. Like, he was really good in the scene because he actually portrayed this kind of raw emotion, the way that he was saying that he misses his wife and they went on a divorce, like she's gone. And there's this scene where he's crying and bawling on stage, John Lithgow is, and then of course it makes the stupid thing where it turns into a joke and it doesn't mean anything, like, at all. But that was such a weird scene in this, and it was a good performance from John Lithgow. Like, I mean, he's a good actor anyways, but that scene was interesting because it doesn't tonally fit with everything else, and it doesn't have any resolution in the slightest. It's just John Lithgow, apparently his wife left him, they divorced. He's sad, he's crying about it, and then more improv jokes on this improv stage that he's on. So it was pointless, and tonally it's just weird. And there are comedies that have some good drama inside of a comedy, but this is dumb because it's brought in that scene, but then it's never brought up again. It's never emotionally paid off. It's just, you hear about this, he's sad, and then comedy again, like the whole movie. So it's really dumb, and I don't get why they did that in this. They could have at least made it a little serious afterward and not like cracked all the dumb jokes that you expect right after this dramatic moment. I just thought that was a cool thing to point out because it was interesting in how dramatic he really was and how great of a scene he gave, like, in this movie. I was surprised. I was like, wow, this is really good. And then we get these shitty jokes right after that ruin it. That annoyed me. And then the whole story is just they go on a trip, kind of to a cabin wherever they are, and Mel Gibson kind of sabotages them and laughs at their misfortunes, and Linda Cardellini and the hot wife Mark Wahlberg has now have a plot where Mark Wahlberg's wife is writing down on a notepad every time Linda Cardellini's around, and then Linda Cardellini says, "Are you writing bad stuff about me?" And then the girl would just be like she would make a face like she is, but then she isn't in the end, so it's just dumb. It's a dumb thing, and I don't feel like I'm spoiling anything with these plot threads because this isn't a plot. It's very, very bare bones, and it feels very Hallmark Channel. It doesn't look like the movie doesn't look great. Like, it's weird. It's made by Paramount, but it doesn't look that great at all. And it feels kind of like that, like a Hallmark movie for me, like a Hallmark Christmas movie. Even though I've never seen any of them, I can feel like this is something like that, except less drama in it. But the story is just that, like Mel Gibson sabotages them. They get into hijinks again like the first one, and all this crazy shit happens to Will Ferrell where he gets like pulled up through with the Christmas lights almost up onto the roof with a snowblower, and then like the snowblower falls on Mark Wahlberg's car like the first movie where like Will Ferrell rides his motorcycle through the house and out the actual house, and Will Ferrell gets stuck in the ceiling. Like, it's just the same kind of jokes, and they weren't funny the first time for me, and they aren't funny the second time, so. But I mean, I already expected this. There's rare exceptions that sequels can be amazing and great, but I didn't expect that of this at all. Like, I really wouldn't expect that of this kind of movie, especially just because it's a comedy. And comedies, there are some great and grand comedies out there, but for me, they're very few and far between. And there's some comedies that make me laugh, whether they're good or not. Like Bad Moms Christmas was a good example of that for me. Like, that movie I think is bad, and the writing is bad, but I thought that the performances made me laugh. And I feel like that's the opposite of this movie, where Will Ferrell can make me laugh sometimes in his movies, and Mark Wahlberg can make me laugh sometimes too, but in these two Daddy's Home movies, they didn't do anything for me. And it just feels very much the same movie, but at Christmas with the dads, or with the granddads. And then of course John Cena comes back at the end. He's got a little more time in this than he did in the first one, because he's just in the first one like at the very end. And in this one, he's in it more, but it's sad because John Cena isn't funny in this movie, and he is a really funny guy. Like, he is genuinely hilarious. I think that Trainwreck, he is one of the funniest. Like, that is a great comedy, but he is hilarious in that movie. Like, I crack up every time I watch that movie. But in this he was given nothing, and I feel like Will Ferrell and Mark Wahlberg, like, they tried their best too, but it's like it feels like there's nothing that was clever about it, so it never made me laugh at all. I thought that it really didn't do anything for me. And even there was, like, the very ending, the last joke did give me a little, I kind of chuckled. I didn't laugh out loud, but I was just like, okay, that's kind of funny. Where, whenever Will Ferrell, his mom actually comes into town at the end, and her new boyfriend is the Sully guy, the actual guy who saved all those passengers, by flying into the ocean. It's the actual guy who did that, and it's funny because Will Ferrell sees him and screams, "You're not my dad. I'm not gonna allow you to be my dad." And then he's like, "No matter how many people you saved, that doesn't change how many great things my dad did." Like, it was so dumb, but that got me in the moment. In the very last joke, like, I thought it was, like, I chuckled. I didn't laugh out loud, but I thought it was probably the funniest line in the movie. Just because it was like, it was so weird that the silly guy came in anyways, that he was in this movie. But yeah, besides that, like, it's not like an abomination, but it's just bad. Like, it's bad. It's not something that I wasn't a fan of the first one, not a fan of this one. I don't think that I changed any thoughts and feelings about that one or in this one now. This one I think is worse than the first one, but it just sucks. It's so bad. It's nothing that I can really say about it besides it's just bland and generic and lame. So that's all I could say. It's just lame. It's very, very lame.